After a while on dialysis, you know your patient, they know you very well, and you feel like a family member to them. You know everything about them. They share their stuff, as you said, the marriage, their kids, issues. So they feel so close to you, and this is a very good support. They trust you.
That's Vida Goudarzi, an expert nephrology dietitian whose world has been upended by COVID-19, but her mission and that of her team remains the same. Keep it personal, stay engaged, and ensure that their patients live the best life possible. Vida, thank you for joining us on NephTalk.
Thanks for having me.
You've been with Satellite Healthcare for 14 years, congratulations, as a dietitian, and now in the role of expert nephrology dietitian. How have your responsibilities changed in this new role?
I have experience both in-center and for home dialysis patient. For the patient, it's going to be the same education, but I'm trying to be a mentor for my colleagues and be available for any nutritional concern they have for their patients.
Who are the members of your interdisciplinary team that strive to meet the needs of the patient? How do they work together, for example, to help ensure a patient's ongoing health?
Yes. Interdisciplinary team dialysis center includes nephrologist, nurse, social worker, and dietitian. We are working as a team, and it's a team effort to make a life better for those having kidney problems.
In the past, when people would come to a center 3 days a week for typically 4-hour sessions, they would be driven by a friend or a relative or a bus. But my understanding now is that things are much more complicated, that people actually arrive at centers in an ambulance.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, some of them, they're coming with the ambulance. And the other thing is, as you mentioned, they use public transportation, and now they have the fear to go with the bus. So this makes it like a big issue. And also like they have to have a mask on. Some of them, they use a face shield to protect themselves.
Vida told me that patient access to affordable, healthy food while minimizing shopping travel has been a continuing challenge in the COVID era. She related the story of a social worker team member who rose to the occasion, contacting a Second Harvest food bank, which now delivers free food weekly to the dialysis center in convenient, easy-to-transport boxes that go home with the patient. The boxes filled with foods patients can eat. Does the typical dialysis patient have several comorbidities, diseases, that can challenge and complicate your work and that of the interdisciplinary team?
Yes, as you said, most of the patients with kidney failures, they have comorbidities. This is including diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, which makes it harder for them to follow diet. And also it's a challenge for a dietitian to work with this patient.
Let's discuss how laboratory results inform your ability to create a customized, a personalized diet for a patient. What does that look like based on those lab results?
Right. So each patient is different, and based on basically their height, weight, and their lab values, we personalize their diet. Like, for example, how much calorie that they need during the day, how much protein or fluid intake they're supposed to take. So it's different from patient to patient, and it's dependent on their lab values.
How are a patient's culture, ethnicity, and their food preferences part of your work as the patient adjusts and the family adjusts to a dialysis-friendly diet? Can you give me some examples of that and how you deal with those issues?
For sure, some of the cultures are more challenging, like Hispanic culture. The main food is cheese, beans, and corn tortillas. Unfortunately, those are high in phosphorus and potassium, which is not good for dialysis patients. Eating is a joy for everybody, but unfortunately with kidney failure, the patient, especially for those culture, they lose this freedom to have those food.
Why are potassium and phosphorus and subsequent numbers that you read in lab results important to health? Why does that make a difference?
Potassium and phosphorus, they are a main thing in dialysis because with the kidney failure, potassium and phosphorus usually goes up if the patient do not follow the diet. And potassium is important because if you don't keep it in a normal range, it causes heart attack. And for the phosphorus works with the calcium to make bones healthy. So that's why if it is out of the normal range, so it makes more issues.
You've said that for patients, eating is a joy. Perhaps one of their few joys these days, considering their medical condition. And for many patients, it's really all about food. Family, friends, working together in the kitchen and enjoying a meal with the people you love.
Right.
But in the COVID era, that can be difficult because eating together is a social event. And that's a challenge, isn't it?
That's true. As I mentioned, like the diet is already hard, being in dialysis, and with the COVID at the top is harder because at least, for example, if you cannot eat the food that you like, you try to enjoy the company with your friends and family. But at this time, with the current pandemic, that is impossible too.
You mentioned to me earlier that food intake, the amount of food, the quantity of food that people eat, is really important in order for the patient to stay healthy and strong, especially not only for the best quality of life possible and their mobility, but also to be a viable candidate for a transplant. And in states like California, gosh, people can wait, 8 to 10 years for a transplant?
Yes, that's true. As you mentioned, the diet is very important because most of the patients on dialysis, they are on a transplant list. And to get the transplant, you have to keep your body healthy and you have to manage your diet and basically your lab values in a normal range. Otherwise, they are not offer you kidney transplant. If you are overweight, so they encourage you to lose weight. And always the transplant center, they ask us if the patient followed a good diet and if their labs are good, because they want to see if the patient's compliance.
When you're working with a patient one-to-one, which I know in and of itself is a challenge these days, do you frequently bring in members of the interdisciplinary team to discuss social issues or family issues, economic issues that might be responsible for people, for being reluctant to implement this diet?
So we are working as a team here. If the patient comes with any social issues, we always refer them to the social workers so that they can provide the resources to the patient. And regarding the food and diet, we always talk to the patient and their caregiver. Caregivers are important because maybe patient is not able to cook. And if the family members does the cooking for the patient, that patient basically needs to know the diet.
We've discussed transportation problems, which are very challenging these days, especially for patients who may be COVID-19 positive. Are you relying more on telemedicine, perhaps a Zoom call to keep in touch with people? And if so, how is that working out?
With COVID, everything is more challenging, even communicating with the patient. For home patients, when they come to the unit, they try to keep their visit short. Some of them, they even afraid come to the unit and they stay in a parking lot if they want to pick up the supply. They don't even want to come inside for their safety. Yes, we are using the phone calls, we are using the teleconference for our patient, but it's not as effective like seeing the patient and educate the patient in person.
You told me that you very often feel like a member of the family. You've been with many patients for almost a decade, almost 10 years. You've met all of their friends and their relatives. You've heard about children being born and marriages and all sorts of social events, which used to be a lot of fun to celebrate. Has that intimacy changed at all here with COVID-19 in terms of how people communicate personal information to you, which can be very, very useful, I would imagine in terms of really discovering why people may be reluctant to comply with your dietary ideas or why they're having difficulty in general getting along.
After a while on dialysis, you know your patient, they know you very well, and you feel like a family member to them. You know everything about them. They share their stuff, as you said, the marriage, their kids, issues. So they feel so close to you, and this is a very good support. They trust you. The good things for satellite, we are getting vaccine for all of our patients, no matter what their age is. And also employees already got their vaccination, and hopefully with this vaccination, everything gets better and we can communicate and talk to patient more, and they feel also more safe to talk to us.
Vida, thank you so much for joining us today on NephTalk.
Thank you. It was nice talking to you.
March marks a trio of important recognitions: National Nutrition Month, Registered Dietitian Nutritionist Day, March 10th, and National Kidney Month. Thank you to all our dietitians for the support you give patients and their families. It goes without saying that you touch their lives in a meaningful and impactful way. Food is the substance that sustains life. The type, quality, and quantity of food consumed has a vital role in overall health. For those with chronic kidney disease, healthy eating is essential. You show patients how to personalize their plate, have good lab results, and quality of life. You help translate the science of nutrition into practical solutions to make life better for our patients. With great admiration and appreciation, we wish you a happy National Nutrition Month, Registered Dietitian Nutritionist Day, and National Kidney Month. Thank you for listening. I'm Christopher Springmann.